Alrighty. We're back. Back in GMS2 again. Fortnite Mapper, what is up, my dude? How's it going, everybody? I'm Drifty from Driftwood Gaming. Thank you so much for joining. Hey, Jasmine. Hello, hello, hello. I was running a stress test on my system today, and while my network connection is okay most of the time, sometimes it drops. My computer, however, is pretty good. I have a ton of RAM. When I upgraded from 16 to 32, well, I upgraded from 16 to 48, but I bought 32 gigs because I wasn't sure if they were going to be like completely compatible. But I flashed the BIOS and updated it. This was like a year or two ago, 2 years ago actually. And so I was like, well, for sure I want to go to 32, so if I have to take out the 16s, I will. So I bought 32 gigs, which was more expensive two and a half years ago than it is now. But I guess that's the nature of the beast. Hello, Joni Spam, but I have 48 gigs around, long story short. So I have Godot engine running. I have 2 instances of of GameMaker Studio 2 running. I've got Tile Setter, Sprite, Photoshop, Task Manager, Discord, 9 tabs in Chrome, which is a resource hog. I have Streamlabs, and then Sublime. So I've got all these things and probably a bunch of small background tasks running, and it takes 20% of my RAM, which I was like, this is pretty good. I mean, I don't need 48 gigs of RAM, but it is kind of cool. I don't know what made me think of that. But anyway, basically I was like, is my system going to be able... I don't want to have to close the things I'm currently working on, but I do want to do this thing, yada yada. And I was wondering if I would be able to just not have to close stuff. And I'm like, I just want to keep this stuff open. Can I keep it open without causing... Yep, I totally can. That's great. So I figured out what I'm going to do with this game. Level 3 will be the final stage. It's going to be 3 levels, but level 2 is going to be where the bulk of it happens. So it starts with a little bit of climbing on level 1. It's like your introduction to it. Okay, we don't need this creation code running. So you start here, and it shows you that you click things to get bonus points, spikes kill you, there's a timer, and the portal is where you want to get to. Simple enough. And then the second level is more of a complicated platformer, but it gets a lot better once you get past this point. From this point on, it's going to be falling. It's going to be just like a falling platformer. So I used to have a portal here, and I was like, okay, that's going to be level 3. But look at the size of the level I made, and I mean, it seems to work fine. So what I want to do is when the player gets down to here, teleport them up to here, and then have them fall, and the same thing again, and then again, and again, and again, and again. But the problem is the camera, the perspective. So I'm going to try to mess around with the camera so that you can see up and down a little bit better. Maybe even include a little switcher right here that when you come across this area, the camera changes. So you don't see left or right, you see viewport 1. Not sure how I want to go about doing that. I can make an invisible object that's really large and then check for collision. So when the player just goes through it, it runs code. And I think I might do that, but first, let me try to mess with the camera in general on the second stage. So on level 2, we're using viewport here, viewport 0. Let me raise this up a bit. Viewport 1. So viewport 1 visible. Does that turn off viewport 0? No, it doesn't. I'm just going to switch viewport 0 to viewport 1 to see if it breaks anything. I'll uncheck this one just so I keep the numbers there. And I will set this viewport to follow the player. Excuse me. Okay, so this is a large room, but that's such a huge viewport that it's going to be like hard to see anything. So I do need to change the I do need to change it up a little bit. 320 by 180 is going to be like the size of the screen. You hear, baby? Yep. She's ready for a nappy. Hello, Ironic Life. How you doing? And then the camera is like, how zoomed in to that are we? So if the room is 4,000 by 1,600, that gives us plenty of space to raise the camera size. But I also want the player to be like visible. So I'm going to double what I currently have here, but actually quadruple on the height, so it's more of a box. So I'm going to do 640 by 640 inside of the camera. And of course, this would also have to be at least 640 by 640, so the screen size is going to change, and I don't know how I feel about that really. Because that's a 1-for-1 aspect ratio now. Oh, I made some codes. Yeah, there we go. So that, I mean, that changes it quite a bit. I mean, I'll also have to make the camera scroll. So this isn't good. We don't need this much width. Let's keep the width to 320. And the height, let's just put that at 320. See what that looks like. So obviously it makes it a lot smaller, and it kind of squishes the aspect ratio a little bit. Things look a little more flattened, right? Because the game screen is different. The game screen is, gosh. Let's just keep playing with numbers until I like it, really. Let's try 180 by 180. Joni Spam says, I think it would be interesting to add a random map generator for this project so the player could aim for beating a high score. A random map generator. Yeah, but then what if the levels can't be... The only reason I was able to do that is because I kind of memorized the pattern to go through that little death trap. It looks very flattened. Let's try 320 on the camera, but the viewport being 180. Let's try 180 on the viewport, 320 on the camera. I'm obviously just experimenting with things right now. I like the idea of making some procedural generation. That sounds cool. I mean, okay, I gotta fix the camera when it comes to the border. So let's go with 200 and 200. So that means we're gonna be kind of like dead center, I believe. Like the camera will be placing the player in the center. It's not quite doing that, is it? Do I have it set to follow the player? Am I changing the first one? I am. I'm like, it's not updating because I'm dumb. Very dumb. Okay, let's go here. For the first one, I have 320, 180, 320, 180. So let's go back to this. So stupid. 320, 180, 320, 180. And now let's scroll down to the second, which is viewport 1. Let's change the camera to 640. Actually, 640 height. It's going to change the screen. Why isn't it letting the camera scroll better? Oh, because I didn't change the border. Okay. 180, 180. I don't want it dead center. I want to have some play. So 150 and 150. There's a 10 pixel play in there. Maybe that's not enough. I think maybe 140 would be more accurate. Okay, so we don't need that much height. I mean width, we don't need that much width. Let's go 140, 140. But let's also change the viewport to 320. I see 320, camera 320 on the width. So this would be like a side-scrolling. This is a good resolution right here, 320 by 180. And that works fine. But for level 2, it's more of a falling thing. So I think we need less of the actual width. Let's see, because height is 640. Let's change this to 320. First of all, let me close this. Excuse me. And viewport 640, maybe to make it longer. Okay, this might be what I'm looking for. When we see it, we'll know what yeah. This is getting closer. I want to be able to, yeah, see, that was much better. Oh my gosh, we're getting there. On level 1, we're using 320 and 180. On level 2, $320 on the height. So it's very long on camera 1, X and Y, but then on the top and bottom it's kind of squinted because I was planning left to right, but I like going from top to bottom better. Excuse me. Hello, Cool Sora 7, how are you doing? Playing some Smash? Sounds like fun, dude. Enjoy. Let's change the viewport again to 960. Gotta remember to close it. Did I not do it right again? Because I'm a stupid boy? I swear I'm gonna get it eventually. God, I sound terrible. I'm sorry about that. It's just a trial and error thing, I suppose. 320 camera and viewport. So we want to increase something here. What would that do? That would increase this, but I would probably also have to increase this for the camera to even make change of that. Why does it still look so 16 by 9? camera's following the player properly, for the most part. Let's add some let's move it down by 80. Okay. That's really weird that it didn't refresh the top. I don't know what's even happening here. Okay. Negative 80. Right. Guess that's what I expected. This is the original. This is the view that is in the first level. So yeah, that. And you know, that looks good and all. What I want to do is extend the X and Y, or the Y, so that I can see farther down. It gives the player more reaction time to what's underneath them. Making the game screen longer. Basically. So you would think that you just increase the viewport, right? You just so the camera, but this doesn't work, changing the height. This doesn't do it, like, you know, it doesn't quite change. Like, you still see the same amount, it just makes it all stretched out and weird looking. This is not also what I think how it should work. Hey Dad, hello, how are you doing? Oh my god, but that actually does closer to what I think I want it to do. By decreasing the height. And obviously the camera is also not quite doing what I want it to do. The border. Okay, camera properties, 320, viewport properties, 480. Alright, so that stretches it out long ways. It's a little bit better. That's just going to stretch it out though. That's not going to show me more, is it? It's literally just stretching it out more. Huh. Hello, Superboss Jason 1. How are you doing? You're doing fine tuning? I'm getting kind of confused how these cameras and viewports. I know what I want it to look like, but I'm not able to get it quite right because I'm just not figuring it out or something. I want the camera to show more of an up and down perspective so the player can see below them and have more time to react. I'm not trying to stretch out the screen necessarily. You've watched your end scene 10 times and played the whole thing like 3 times. You just need to do that again 100 times. And then you might be onto something. There's a scene in The Count of Monte Cristo where Edmond Dantes is locked in the Chateau d'If. He's in his prison for years. And the priest digs a tunnel into his cell. And the priest thought he was digging outside of his cell to freedom, but he was digging into the prison further into another cell. And the priest comes up, it freaks Edmund out, and eventually they start talking. And Edmund says, I forgot the number, but it's something like 65,322 stones in these walls. I've counted them many times. And the priest responds with, but have you named them yet? So I'm going to respond in that same matter, Jazz. Have you named them yet? Yeah, I'm also running into bugs. I've been messing around a lot with Godot today. And I closed projects. I'm going to start a new project every time I try to learn something new. And just trying to learn a new engine is a... I don't expect to just get it right off the bat. But I'm learning little bits and pieces, the engine, more and more. I want to finish this project in GMS2 before I really start doing a project in it. So I'm still struggling here, trying to get my camera and viewport to behave properly. I've gone through a bunch of trial and error stuff here. And what I want my camera to do is to show farther down below the player. So maybe so the camera is what the player is going to see, your zoom level, but the viewport is the size of the resolution of the screen, my understanding. Enable viewports, set viewport 1 on, make this one visible, and I suppose the box should be like longer, so like, you know, I would think this and this, or even like this. Something like that. And that's more of a square. So 640. And then 320. So it's going to kind of squish it then. But then we do the vertical border of 310. Yeah. To make it not squished, I also have to change the width. Let's do that, 310 of the screen. So I mean, that's kind of what I'm. That's kind of closer to what I'm talking about. But maybe make the resolution of the game bigger. Right? So that's changing the viewport to 640 by 640. Am I right here? No. Or did it change? Hold up. No, the resolution of the game isn't changing. People recommend setting your own camera system up because the GMS2 camera system is a little weird. Yeah, it is. It is a little bit weird. I mean, even this is better though, because you can see more. What's causing the actual resolution of the game to be set? I think I'm missing something fundamental here. Like, I'm missing something fundamental. Like, what sets the resolution of the game? Is it the size of the first room that sets the resolution of the whole game? There's no cameras or anything being set on this one. It's just 640, 360. That's the first room. Let me do 640, 640 on this one and see if going into the project would it change the resolution of the rest of the game. It does. Oh my god. So setting the resolution of your first room is what's going to determine the rest of the game's actual resolution. That's the fundamental piece I was kind of missing. Okay. So what if, okay, well let me just do that then. In here, let's set my width to 320 and my height to 640. It's going to change all the other stuff in the game, but I'm kind of changing this game up as I go anyway. And I've changed the whole idea of what I want to do with this game. I don't want a map like this left to right. I want a game that's more like this, where you're falling down. Of course, now that I've got this actual long resolution set up better, I can change the viewports on room 2, level 2. That's interesting. The first map's X and Y sets the resolution of the game. I'm sure there's some code you can run that will just resize the game too. So I mean, it's not the only thing that you can do to change it. But now that we know that, let's change the camera to 320 and the viewport to 320 on the X and see what it looks like inside room number 2. Very much closer to what I actually want. The game, to me, is much more fun when you're falling through the levels instead of jumping and climbing. And this is kind of more interesting to me anyway. Anyway, this is the actual resolution that I'm looking for. 320 by 640. And I wonder, yeah, I mean that's about right. Obviously I can turn off the collision layer. Close this so that doesn't look all super red. So now I'm going to be remaking the title screen. That's not a big deal. And I also redraw so level 1, all the work I did on level 1, like this is not what it's supposed to look like. This is very weird. It's very, very weird. It's just hard to look at, really. Slower falling makes sense. Let's cap V speed. I know this is a huge overhaul and change to the current what we're doing with the game, but I'm okay with that because I'm not really super stoked and happy with like this very crappy platformer when I can make something more exciting and different. There's a lot of left to right scroller platformers, but just giant falling platformers is something different. I will make falling a bit slower, so let's do that right now. So this is the first game overhaul. I usually overhaul a game multiple times before it's completely done. I think what we can do is scrap level 1, or maybe we just get the camera set up right and use it. It's very short. So let's do 180 by 320 and just reverse these. 180 by 320 and set the horizontal to 150. All right, yeah, 150 and this to 150, horizontal to 80. I could remake the background. I actually plan to make a new title screen anyway, so this doesn't matter or bother me at all because we're going to redo that completely. And now that actually looks like we can use level 1. You know? Yeah, let's just keep level 1. It's hard to see where you're going, and it's actually kind of deceiving. But at least it shows you the spike down there. Whoa. Boom. And then boom. Level 2, it changes it quite a bit. It zooms the camera out a bit to let you see more. I like the zoomed in look a little bit better, but then you can't see far enough as you're falling. But let's reduce the fall speed. So that's going to be under player. And I remember on the step I capped V speed. So let's cap that at 6. It was 7, so it was 9, and then we went to 8, and then we went to 7. Now we're going to 6. It'll change it a little bit. It kind of feels a little floaty, but not too bad. It does make this level, I mean, I obviously got used to each fall speed, so switching fall speeds is going to change like how you play the game a little bit. Now you can just clear that, super easy. And then for falling across here, it feels a little more controllable. You know what I could consider doing if I don't want to use this camera perspective. Is just like give him a parachute, or give him a state where as he's falling his parachute is out, and call it Parachute Man or Parachute Jumper or Parachute Simulator, or Dodge the Spikes with Your Parachute, the game. The game, the Reckoning. That's how it's going to be called. No, wait, let's try that though. Let me go to level 2, now that we've just changed our screen res. We'll cut it in half. So instead of 6, shoot, what did I give it? Instead of 320, 180, 180, 320, so you reverse it. We do 160, 320, 160, 320, and then change our borders horizontal to be, let's take off 20 pixels and divide that by 2, so 140, so that we'll say 70 horizontal border following, and then it'd be 150 on the vertical border following, and see what that looks like. Slower falling makes better sense. And you can see a little bit more. This is a little bit more acceptable. You're still zoomed in and you can't see everything, but you can see. It's hard to like, you can't even see across. Like, how are you going to know to jump? I think I need to start the player. You can't see far enough across. That's the problem. Let's do 180, 180, and then 75. Nope, 90. Nope, 80. Nope, I kind of just like the other way around, because it's kind of hard to just guess where you're going. 320, 640. And that matches this title screen, which is 320, 640. We'll do the same property change. Horizontal border is going to be the width. That's 160 minus 20, 140. Wait, 150. 640 minus 20 is 620. That's 310. That way there's some camera play. That's what it really needs, is a funny sound when the player dies. We're going to do sounds. We'll do sounds later on. What if I change the zoom on level 1 as well? I mean, level 1 kind of makes more sense than level 2 in that you're going to see a lot more. Okay, hold on. 320, 640, 320, 640, 150, 310, How about that? Because the level is so small. Whoa! Check that out! Because we're not destroying the particles really until yeah, the particles don't get destroyed until the game ends. I mean, it's doable. But on this first scene, you're like, just questioning. I'm questioning myself. I'm like, why? But why though? Why is there a lack of this space? Why don't I give the room a little bit more height there? Let's change that to 640. Oh no. That's all that does. You know, I do kind of like this resolution a little bit better though. You know what though, this first room, it's just not fun. It teaches the player, but it's not fun. I think I'll just skip this room. It was a learning experience room. So, room level 1, that's fine, we'll skip it. Level 2, we start the player here. Where is this spot? This is 832, 312. Let's go to the player spawner. We'll go 832, 312. You're gonna start the game, it's like level 2. Wait, that didn't work. Does creation code also need to be set here? I think so. No, I just took that off. Okay. Wait, what did I change then? Oh, did I just change? Did I say 832 and then change it to 632 because I'm a big smart boy? Possible. It's very possible. So it's gonna start right there, and there goes all your lives. You know, this is more of what I'm actually thinking about, though. You could put that, you're so amazing you start at level 2. I think we'll do that. Let's raise the player a little bit more. So, start the player at, I don't know, 100 pixels. Player spawner, start us at X 100. Gives us 200 more pixels of falling. That's over 3 more seconds of just falling. So you would start here, boom, right at the top. You have a few seconds to fall and get an idea of and look at what your Where to go? Oh, I like that. That is really good. That is closer to what I kind of want it to be. So when you get down here, it's got to be like a teleporter object, I suppose. You know what? I should scrap this. Scrap all these maps. Let's just make a new map now that we have an idea of what we want, a resolution like we want. And let's make a new map. Like level 3 is what we sort of set up already. The width of the map is only 360. And our width is 320 and our height is 640. So let's go width 320, height 640. Height 640. And then the border 150, 310. Follow the player. And creation code. We're going to skip the first 2 levels. They were just to help us come up with an idea. You start on level 3. Room level 3. We've got the spawner in there. Let's go to the player spawner and make some code for level 3. Copy this. So if we're on level 3, where do we want to start? I guess 100. We know our resolutions, 320. So let's start at 160 on our X. And then at the very top, let's start at 64. There we go. So, let's go to our title. We're going to change all of this up, but we're going to keep our creation code. And set our current room to room title. And actually, we need to go to our controller. So, you press enter to start. Current room title. And we just change this to 3. And I could copy, let's just copy this to give me a dev command to go to room 1 if I want to. So if I'm holding L and I press 1, then it'll take me to level 1. But it'll be weird looking. And level 1, level 2. And then we'll copy this again, copy to just restart level 3 or go to level 3. And let's make another one of these codes that says if I press the plus key, I think it'll work like that, right? Maybe I have to do VK plus. Is there a plus key? What is VK plus? Maybe it's equals. You have to use equals. Let's see if that works. I mean, I don't know. But what I want to do is just add lives. So we could say with whatever we want to do. This is coupling, which we don't. Just the weakness to GMS2, all the coupling that's required. So then the controller would need the thing that keeps our lives. So player lives equals with our score object, we will set player lives equals plus equals 10. So it'll just add 10 more lives if we press L and plus. It may not work because I don't know if OR plus works. Also probably need to make a if instance exists type of thing. So we start on here. Of course, we're going to have to migrate some things. So on level 1, what is loading? The player spawner object is being instantiated. It's persistent, so it only needs to be here on level 1. But it's being instantiated on level 1, which we're no longer accessing. So I need to instantiate that on level 3. That's why you saw no player. So we're going to drag and drop this player spawner object right there. And now this object will spawn a player when we start the game. Of course, the player is being spawned at a sideways angle because, of course it is. What's causing it to do that again? Tile map get at pixel, couldn't find tile map because there's no collision. Collision layer. Let's just do room editor. And then on the foreground, we'll have grass 8, which we made in a previous episode. We can just select a single one, or we can select 3 of them. Okay, there we go. That's fixed. We need to change where the GUI is drawing our bonus, our lives, and the timer. That's much better. Okay. So let's fix some of our elements. Let's fix our draw text. At the beginning, we can change our font. We're setting our font to the title font. So let's go to our title font and change the size to A14. And let's just, I didn't really like it that much. Let's change it to something like that. Just some different font. That'll work fine. Okay, let's change it's our score that's drawing the GUI, so let's check that out. Our X and Y locations are definitely going to be off because now the game is more more vertical than horizontal. We just trying to change it around a lot. I think I'm going to try something simple. I'm going to subtract 100 from all of the X locations. I'm just going to overhaul the whole thing, really. And I'll just subtract 50 from all of these, so 25, 125. Okay, obviously this is going to have to be different. Let's try the same X, 25. 125, 25, 125, and we'll change the Y instead. So 16, 16, and then we'll do like, I guess, add 64 pixels here. So we'll say 80, and then we'll add another 64 pixels and say 144. 144. Hello, Boro B. How are you doing? So I mean, now we can see that this font works perfectly fine, and the code we already have works. Press enter to start. We're going to change the background to the name of the game. Once we figure out the name, we'll fix the starting title screen. It was always going to be replaced, so it's not a big deal. Okay, so we need to add a little bit more to the X value of all of these, but not a lot. Let's put the timer up at the top. So let me just put this over here on the other screen real quick to give me something to look at. For the bonus, I want to add a little bit more. Let's say 32 pixels. That's the starting point. It doesn't need to go up 100. Let's just say it goes up 50. So 82. And then we'll do the same thing for lives, 32 and then 82. But then for the timer, I want it to go back up to this top level, so we're going to do 32 and 82. Wait, that's the X. No, 16 is what we're going to go back to copying. So 16 on this. But then the X will be added a bit more to the timer. So this will be different. This will be... We only have... How many across? 320 across. Let's try 132, 182. We can push the timer over a little bit. In fact, we can push the bonus over as well. Lives, I kind of like where that's at. Lives can go up a little bit. So on the X, it doesn't need to be 80. Let's make it 50. Let's push this over to 40 and 90. 40, 90, 32, 82. And then timer, I kind of like where it's at, but I'll push it over just a bit. And then we can push the timer over a little bit more. We'll say 200. Getting there. It's getting there. We're fixing it. Resolution looks tiny. You're making this game for Android? No. I'm just going to make the game more I want it to look like this because I've changed the idea of it. I'm not going to make a left to right platformer. I'm going to make a top to bottom platformer, meaning the player is going to start at the top of the screen and fall through the obstacles. Boom, and then he finishes the level. Let's push the lives over a few pixels and push the timer over a good 50 pixels or something. So timer can go 200 and then 260 and or 248, and the bonus can go over a few more pixels. Let's just say 50, something like that. Aimbot, nice try, dude. Nobody sees you. Yeah, I'm going to make it top to bottom. Bonus went over a little bit too much. Timer needs to get pulled back a little bit. Let's say timer can go 180. Jay Babel says, just wanted to say that I enjoy your content. Thank you so much for all that you do to help us fresh bloods out there. Keep rocking out. Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it. Yeah. Every now and then we'll get somebody in there who's just spamming vitriol aimbot. Aimbot has been kicked and reported just for general harassment. It's unnecessary. And 90% of the messages, I mean, this is what it looks like. I can show you guys. I wonder if they think, oh, people are going to see this, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to delete this, but you can see, this is what I see, and nobody sees the spam. We have filters on in mods. And I'm going to delete this because there's no reason to publicize villainy or maliciousness or any of that crap. Thank you so much, JBable. Appreciate it. Anyway, let's push bonus back a little bit more. Bonus can go, let's say, 40, 42. And this can be, kind of liked where that number was. We'll leave that there. Lives can go forward, let's just say 6 pixels. Yeah, 6 pixels. Timer's good. Timer's good. Actually, we can push the actual variable of timer over a little bit. So let's push lives over to 38, and then the actual timer could be 260 to give some room for it to increase. Of course, it shouldn't have to go that far. So it was a rough start this episode, trying to figure out what to do with the cameras and stuff, but instead of just designing our own camera, which we probably do eventually, it makes sense just to, since I want to focus the game on top to bottom, like falling, like more of a falling, dodgy type of thing, we lowered the fall speed, and we changed our game's resolution to 320 by 640, so you can see above you and below you better. And I mean, I could make it loop through and randomly spawn stuff too. I wonder if that would be worth doing. Because then it could just be an endless faller. Like you could literally take this one level and loop it so that when you're at the bottom, it puts you at the top. But how do you make that fun, and how do you how do you make an end to it, I suppose? How do I randomly generate spikes and platforms and stuff? I actually don't need collisions. I guess it was still fun to learn how to do this. But I don't necessarily need any foreground, background, anything like that. I could just kind of make instances of spikes and throw them wherever I want. Oh my gosh, I have an idea. Since I can do that, let's make a controller object and call it Spike Spawner. And this will be actually, I don't know if I want it to be persistent. I don't think we'll need it to be persistent. No, we don't need it. Just on the level we want it, we'll put it in there. Hello. What we're going to do is, on create, we're going to set a timer. Spawn spikes, duh, that's what it's going to do. On create, we're going to set a timer 0, alarm 0. And set it to, I don't know, let's spawn a spike every half a second. Is that what we want to do? I don't know. And then on the alarm, this is how you can have it looping constantly. You reset the alarm. Reset. So alarm 0 equals 30. So when the game starts in 30 seconds, it's going to, or in half a second, it's going to spawn a spike, and it'll re-trigger the alarm. So every second, 2 spikes are just going to spawn. And if we tell it to do that, so we can say instance create layer, and then we say room random range between 0 and room width, comma, random range 0 and room height, comma, instances layer, comma, object underscore spike. So really what's going to happen is all you got to do is put this object in that level anywhere, spike spawner, and it's just going to place spikes all over the room constantly. And I guess eventually there's going to be so many spikes placed that it's going to kill you. There's always the chance that it'll spawn a spike in the player, but the player's going to be moving. So I don't know. I could do it if not place meeting with the object player, then do that. Let's try that. If not place meeting with is it X and Y? Yep. X, Y. Oh my gosh, come on. X, comma, Y, comma, object underscore player, then tap, undo that. So if it's not going to meet if it's not going to be on a player's location, then create a spike. If it would have spawned it where the player is, this is very unlikely, but it eventually would happen, then it'll just not spawn it at that time and wait another half a second to spawn it. Okay, the other handler that we need to do, we can do that in we could do that in the controller, but I feel like this is its own object as well. I mean, we're not using Data Manager for anything, but I've already... What am I instantiating here? This is... I hate how it blurs this out and I can't, like, see it. Like, that's so dumb. So that's the controller, that's the draw text, that's the particle system, Data Manager, and Score. So Data Manager is being created at the beginning, so I don't need to, like, put the Data Manager. I just put the player spawner and the spike spawner here. Data Manager will exist at this point, so all I have to do is use the Data Manager if I want to tell it what to do, because it's currently not doing anything. But let's use the Data Manager to... Let's make a check of the player. So on this step, we're going to say from bottom to top, if object underscore player dot x, actually the x doesn't matter, so it'd be just dot y, is greater than equal to room underscore height minus, I don't know, when we get to the bottom, we'll say 64 frames. So if it's close to the bottom, within like 1 or 2 character length distance, we want to say object.player.y equals 0, actually 32. So all that's going to do is check every frame of the game to see where the player's at. And if the player is at the bottom or very close to the bottom, it's going to put it at the top. So these two simple things are going to create an endless thing. Of course, we got to fix bugs. Let's see what happened. It can't find object player with the data manager because the player doesn't exist on the title screen. Not a big deal. We can do a nested if condition, or we can make another condition inside here. We can say and, because the player won't always exist too, so we actually have to do this, and object underscore player, instance exists. Instance exists object player. So we're going to say if the player exists and its Y location is at the bottom, put the player at the top. And at the beginning, it'll still be checking for it, and the object doesn't, it can't find the object player because it's just not there. So I mean, I could put the object player, this is called coupling. So this object is coupled with the player, and so when the player's not there, the game doesn't know how to read it, because we're like, it's saying, what is object player? Because on the title screen, object player does not exist. And the object player won't exist. Oh, maybe I do have to go like this first. We'll say if instance exists object player, then do what's in here. So it's trying to read O player before it's checking to see if it's there. And so I think we need to do this. Like this. Tab that. Tab that. Press enter and go like that. Braces. So first of all, it's going to say if the player exists, then check blah 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 blah. So now it should be fine because it's gonna bypass this because player doesn't exist, right? So it works. So you hit start. We're falling. Spikes are spawning. Spikes keep spawning, and we're at the bottom. The spikes still keep spawning. Oh god! Oh god! I think I found my game. I think this is our game, and that's it. So when the player dies, we also have to, or maybe we don't get rid of. Let's reduce the amount of lives the player has to, like, I don't know, 5 lives. We don't even need a tile set. This is just easy. What if a spike spawns right where the player spawns? Oh well. I mean, it can do that because we're not checking to say don't spawn at this location. So what happens when it game overs? Like now we hit a spike that the player should be removed and we have 0 lives. Why is it freezing up at this point? It's interesting. Player spawner is persistent, but for some reason, let's see. Okay, spike spawner doesn't need to be persistent. Yeah, Karen, you're right. That's what I did. For some reason, it freezes now at the end. Let me look at the code that, where is it saying if lives are 0, then game over? That's the thing. So it's not on the controller. Let's start closing stuff. It's not on the spike spawner. It's not on draw text. It's not on... No, it is this. Okay, it's the score. So if... Right. This whole scoreboard thing is kind of pointless the way I have it set up with level 1, level 2, level 3. What I can do is just say level 1 score and just read level 3 score, because we're not actually going to be looking at any of this right here. Yep. And lower is not better now. I'm going to change the, since we're operating a timer, the bonus would add to it. So let's change the way that the bonus is being handled. And we also don't need to set bonus to 0 when we die. And timer doesn't need to be set to 0 when we die either, because we want to survive as long as possible with however many lives we start with, which we can say is 10. So when the player is created, we're not setting the bonus to 0, we're not setting the timer to 0. So let's get rid of that. Boom, boom, boom. In fact, we don't need this, we don't need this, we just clean this up. Okay. Actually. Alright, so that's cleaned up. Vertical speed of falling 6 seems to make sense. I kind of like that. We don't need speed boost, we don't need a tile map collision. This is a very simple game. We made a lot of extra code that we don't even use now for this project. It's just avoid the spikes. I could have made this game super fast, but I did learn a little bit about making a platformer. I learned about making quite a few things. So the timer sticks around, the bonus sticks around. Of course, I have to add in, so that's another thing. It's not just dodging, but it's also going to, we're going to make another thing that spawns clickers. Even as you're dead, it's still spawning stuff. So 4 new spikes have been spawned. 4 new spikes will have spawned in the time it takes for you to die and respawn. So at this point, however many bonus you have would add to the amount of seconds that you have. So we're going to set the player score to the timer plus the bonus. But something's happening when we die for the last time. And it's essentially locking up the game. And I don't understand why. Compile, no compile errors. Variable player max level only referenced once. Oh, that was a level system that we made for a tutorial. We don't actually have a level system in here. I was just helping somebody figure out how to set up the stats. So we can close this. We don't necessarily need this anymore. Okay, so we've got stuff closed. Particle effects, we could add particle effects, some more particle effects. Let's make a spike spawner. Let's just change the name to object spawner. It's object spawner. And because we want it to do more than just place a spike, but we can say spawn spikes and stuff. Yep. And this will be spawn clickers. And we'll set this alarm to 2, or I'm sorry, alarm 1, but we'll set it to 120, which is 2 seconds. And so we'll set alarm 1, it's another timer, to spawn clickers, and this will be alarm reset, spawn spikes. So let's just copy this instance creation code real quick, paste it right here. We also need to reset the timer at the beginning or the end of it. Alarm 1 equals 120. And so we'll let it spawn anywhere we want, where anywhere is possible, except we'll instead spawn a clicky O2. You should make a shop so when you get enough clickers you can buy buffs or debuffs to make it easier or harder. I think that's too advanced for what we're going to do in this project. I mean, I could do that, but I don't think it's necessary because it's going to be very short. You fall and try to survive as long as you can, and that's it. There's no leveling up your character, there's no advancing it. It's a simple thing. You keep falling from top to bottom, dodging spikes that are spawning ever quicker, and trying to survive as long as you can. If I want to make the game easier, I could go like this and make it so that it only spawns a spike every 60 frames, which is 1 second. So we'll say every 2 seconds a clicker is spawned, and every second a spike is spawned. So that'll increase playtime a little bit by decreasing difficulty. So you're falling, spikes are spawning, clickers are also spawning. So as these things spawn, you have to click on them. I feel like it's too... gosh. Let's make another exception to this. So anywhere from... How big are the clicky things? They are 24 by 24. So let's say instead of 0 on the object spawner for these, we'll say these can only be spawned from a minimum of 32 and to a maximum of room width minus 32. So they're only going to spawn in the game, in the screen, with a little bit of padding buffer so that they don't spawn towards the edge as much. And the same thing with this, they'll only spawn 32 room height minus 32. And let's do the same thing with the spikes. So 32 room width minus 32, and this will be 32 room height minus 32 for the spikes. See, I feel like there wasn't enough spikes being spawned, so let's change that to 45. So every 3/4 of a second, it'll spawn a spike, and then we can increase this to every second a clicky is being spawned, so more of them will appear, maybe even faster than you can click them all. I'm trying to remember the scope of this game is to be very small. I've already spent about as much time as I wanted to on like making it, and the whole point was to come up with something. See, that spawned right underneath the player. To make it a project that had its own thing, it was kind of a different game, not just your typical Mario platformer. And you can't click on these after you've... I feel like I can make the clickers bigger now. They're kind of hard to click. They're frustratingly small. And trying to click on them definitely makes it harder to dodge spikes. So when you die for the last time, it should go to, well, let's actually say what's happening. It should, so our timer was 60 seconds with a bonus of 29, so our score would be 69, or 89. Hey Docweez, how you doing? and then that's how we would handle the scoreboard. But I need to change this. This is draw text. This is score. It's data manager. What if I also say on the player, hold up, where's the player? V speed equals 0. Would that stop the player for a second? And would he just freeze there, or would he eventually keep falling? I think he would stop and then keep falling. So let's give the player a second to as it jumps. So we're going to be accessing object player inside the not the spawner, the data manager. So object underscore player dot vSpeed equals 0. So when it teleports you back from the bottom to the top, it stops the player for a second. But let's see if it regains its V speed quickly or not at all. So we're going to fall down, and it does for a brief second. And it remembers the X position, so it doesn't start you back in the center, so that's good. You know what we should make it do, though, is when it spawns you for the first time on the player spawner, is pick a random X value. So let's go random range of 32 to, what's it, 320? Let's just do 300, 280. Actually, let's be specific, 296, because that would be minus 298. 32 on both sides. Is it 288 then? Yeah, 288. And then, of course, the Y would be 32. So when the player dies, if it's because a spike spawned right where the player spawns, it should start the player anywhere from left to the right side randomly. Yep, it started right here. I'm not going to move left or right, and it should spawn me somewhere else. Okay, it spawned me right there. It spawned me a little bit to the left there. Actually doing better, not moving at all. That's not intended behavior. Okay, so then it spawned me over there. Spawned me over there again. Spawned me back over here. So it is random. It's randomly moving me now. It's in the middle of those two. We're still encountering the same issue right here. When the player has, basically when the player dies for good, they're out of lives, it freezes instead of going to the title screen. So let's look at score. And so when the player's lives are less than or equal to 0, room go to our title. So it's supposed to go back here, but it doesn't. It just kind of locks up. So it also says instance destroy player when we get to this room. And I'm trying to figure out why this is happening. Is it because it's trying to like reinitialize all of these objects and have multiple copies of them? Would it do that? I mean, I can get around this by going to the room's creation code and saying, if the controller doesn't exist, then create it. If this says da 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 da, da etc. So let's try that. Maybe that's what's happening. If instance exists, underscore object controller. Actually, if this object doesn't exist, then instance create layer, come on, fingers, x, y, I'll just say 1, instances. Oh, I know what's happening. There's different layers. It's missing layers. I should just make sure that they all have the same kind of layers for some weird reason. Object underscore controller. And now I'll copy this, paste this, and make this to not that I think that matters at all, but what's the next thing? Draw text. Paste it again for the next thing. Particle system. And then data manager. And then score. That way, when we come back to the title screen, it doesn't try to recreate those things. Now, I was able to do this before, so I don't think this is necessary. In fact, let me just try to go like this and not use this yet. Let me try a couple. This is my contingency. If that doesn't work, try something else. I would do 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5. Because we're able to. Let me just hit F5. See, it goes back to the start. And the scoreboard, which we need to refit, we need to fix that as well. That puts us there. We're able to go back to that scene. So it's not that. That's working fine. So this actually lets us just go like this and have the best score, because we can just pause the timer and it restarts us. So I'll disable the F5 to restart, or actually I don't have to do that. I'll just, when I F5 to restart, I'll change the timer back to 0. So let's go to the controller. When we press F5, it goes to title, and we'll say with object score timer equals 0. And the timer doesn't start on this one. Press enter. Or no, it does, doesn't it? The timer is starting. Hold up. F5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so the timer is going. Okay, well, all I have to do is do the same thing when we press enter. Not a big deal. So room, go here, and then set the timer to 0. I can just go O_score dot timer equals 0. I don't necessarily need to say with the score, set the timer to 0, yada yada. Unnecessary. _score dot timer equals 0. There's a lot of coupling going on, a lot of coupling happening here. So if I press F5, 0, we start at 0. So even when the game is started, the timer hasn't started. We press enter, now the timer starts. And we know that going to the title screen, also we can set our lives back to 10. Player lives. Now it makes sense to say with score timer 0 player lives equals 10. It's fine. And there's some redundancy there, but that's fine. So we got 10 lives, the timer starts at 0. We press F5, we're on the title screen, we can look at our scores. Press enter, it restarts the game. F5 to restart. We should allow, after the, oh gosh, look at that. Spike spawn right at the top. Let's actually not allow spikes to spawn that close to the top. Let's go to the object spawner and say random range of room X is fine, room range, this is the Y. So it can spawn within 32. Let's just say 128. Like it's got to spawn at least 128 pixels down to give the player some time to respond to it, and not res kill the player. We don't want to res kill the player. So no spikes should spawn at the very top 128 pixels. So we're falling, we're dodging spikes, we're getting bonus points for clicking on these little clickers, and no spikes should spawn on the very edge of the screen. So I'm curious, can we make it so that if we go to the very edge, are we going to permanently avoid getting spikes, and that's the strategy? I think I have to allow for spikes to spawn closer to the X and Y edge. So spikes can spawn random range. Let's just see, the spikes dimensions are 16 by 16. So it's going to be centered. I think the origin is centered, yep. So that is 8 on both sides. So we have to say at the most, well, the player is 24 by 24, I think. 16 width. So 8 and 16. So let's just say 8. Object spawner. The spikes will spawn random range of 8 and the room width minus 8. And the Y, it'll be 128 room height minus 64 because the player is teleported at 64 with our data manager. Yep, right here. Now I could make some power-ups that, I could do the speed boost, also will spawn every so often on the object spawner. Let's do that. It'll let the player move faster left and right. I don't see a problem with that. But I do have an issue here when the player runs out of lives, it freezes. So if player lives are less than or equal to 0, go to the title screen. And then when the player is on the title screen, oops, not the font, right here. When the player is on the title screen, does it just keep trying to do a transfer event over and over and over and over and over? It seemed to work on the other levels, which is confusing. Alright, let me look at something here. We don't need to do this here. Let's get rid of player live setting here and here. In fact, let's do creation code. Here. And we'll say O_score equals O_ dot player lives equals 10. O_score dot player bonus is what I called it. Equals 10. No, 0. O_score dot timer equals 0. I don't think I need to toggle those here, but let's just see if that fixes it. By setting lives to 10, maybe once it's transferred, it doesn't keep trying to go to the room over and over and over. I'm just trying to pass levels. I suppose I can make a command that just takes levels, but then at the same time I can just set player levels to 1. I think it's just simpler to run into spikes. And more fun. Hey, it worked! So we make, of course, it's not going to look like this. We'll have an actual title screen, and then our score will be kept. We need to change the score. But then it starts over again. So that fixed it by just setting players' lives to 10. We didn't have to do the if instance exists for every object that's being created. That was just a bunch of malarkey. Okay, cool. That's done. Let's take a look at the way that we're handling our scoreboard so that we can keep track of how well we did. Get rid of all of these things open and open our score. Draw GUI. This is for our scoreboard. So on the x-axis, we'll say, actually we'll do, 42 for that, and then this is on the, okay. That's the Y. How far down do we want that to be? Let's just do 100. Level 1 score. This is both the same, 100. Then the X, how far across do we want it to be? 64. And then for the actual score, we want it to be like, well, we don't actually, let's do 32. And then, is it set to center? Let's try 64 first. 64, and then 132. 128. So it shows the scoreboard at that location. Because that's what we want to see, the scoreboard. Level 1, score. Okay, so let's push this, everything forward 50 pixels and down like 300 pixels. So let's just say 100, 400, 220, wait, we don't actually have that many. 132. No, it needs to be over more, 164. Wait, we have 320 to play with. 360, 340, 320, 320. So let's do 200, 400. I keep forgetting I changed the resolutions. 320 by 640. Yes. There we go. Level 1 score. We can just kind of say score because it's one level. It's set to 1,000. Let's set it to 0 by default. Because now higher is better. We also need to change the way that it's calculating. So now it'll display the scoreboard correctly, but we need to change the way that it calculates our score. I forgot where that's actually being handled. Oh, I'm calculating the score when you hit the portal object. This is where I'm calculating the score, I remember. So, player, transfer the player. When we transfer the player, wait, is that what we're doing? Yeah, so when it transfers the player, it's handling the score. But we're not using the portal anymore. We're going to use when the player dies his last live. So what we're going to do is take this code here and go to where the player is losing the life, which is on the spike. So if place meeting player, do this, take away the lives. But before we take away the lives, we need to calculate the score. We'll make a condition saying if the player's, oh, wait, not yet, not here. Wherever we're handling the, when the player's out of lives handler, is that in the controller? No. Is it in the score? I think it's in the score, which would make sense to put it here. Yeah. So, when the player is out of lives, don't just go directly to the title. We need to calculate the scores. So what we're going to do is say level 03 score equals timer plus the player bonus. And then go to the title. And technically the timer keeps rolling, but when you start the level, it resets it to 0 again. So let's test this out. If we press S, we see our score, it's set to 0. We hit enter, we're falling, spikes are spawning, so are clickable objects. we hit the bottom, we go to the top with a very brief stop fall delay, so like you have just a second before, not even a second, a quarter of a second before you like hit your terminal velocity of 6 again. But spikes can only spawn within like 100, so like that one right there at the top is near the closest so they can spawn to the top. So you shouldn't get res killed that often. I mean, you can actually, but hold on, is there one at the top? No, that's not the top. So you can see right here, they're not spawning above like a certain height. You get a little bit, not a ton, but just a little bit to give you like, okay, press left, press right to dodge it. But I mean, you can still kind of get res killed. But now it's calculated our score. So our score is 81.2. So that's our timer plus our bonus. I feel like I need to make this background now and pick a name. Hello, friend Ninos. The real question is the Mario Star theme sang by Drifty, is the background music already on this game? You know, I would sing it so bad that it wouldn't get copyright claimed, so you could probably do that. Let's go into Photoshop. We need a new 320 by 640 background. Let's hit a new layer. Kind of delete this, have some transparency. And, you know, I'm not sure what we're going to call it yet. What's the name of the game, guys? Is this Spike Faller? This is Spike Faller, The Reckoning. I feel like it should just be like a giant spike. Oh wait, I have an idea. Let's delete this layer. Let's place any day now. Okay. Let's place. Where's that spike that I made? Oh, I made it in. I made it in the GMS2 engine, so I have to like do some magic to get it out. Let's just do this. Let's open an Explorer. There we go. Here's our spike. Our 2-frame PNG. We can use either one we want. I think we'll go with this one. Copy it. Actually, yeah, that's fine. Copy it. Because it's just in a weird spot. All these are still stored in drive E. I need to change that to drive F. And just paste it here and call it Spike Death. Spike Faller, can you be on point? Dum dum dum. This is one time you don't want to be on point. It's so corny though, I love it. Anyway, let's open up Spike Death. And I need to set an option. Maybe it's already set up, right? But I need to set it to pixel perfect so that it doesn't do that. I don't want that to happen. So let me set up something to... I forgot how to do this. It's fine. Oh, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I'll figure it out. the place settings. I think Royal Crown Code showed me how to do this. Blech. Oh, you know what I could do? This works too. Just open it and then copy it and then paste it in here. And then zoom in and select it, but select it well. Select it really well. Like, select it like super well. And then right click free transform. And then zoom out with Control Shift and left click. And hold on, undo that. Let's lock aspect ratio. Zoom out some more. And let's get it as big as like it can be, where it still looks good. Like that. Boom. Oh, and it still blurred it. I don't want it to be blurred. Refine edge. Show radius. Oh my gosh, what is this tool? Smart radius. No smoothing. I forgot what it's called, but there's a thing that there's an option you select that stops it from blurring it. Come on, where's all my gurus at? Please help me out here. I've done this before. Pixel aspect ratio. It's something to do. That stops it from blurring a placed or pasted image so that it keeps it like very pixelated. It's like a mode, right? Fixed size. Maybe it's that. Free transform. I had it all perfect. Yeah, undo that again. Undo that, undo that, undo that. Let's just go like this. This isn't even GMS that I'm talking about, DocWeez. This is Photoshop that I'm talking about. Just a Photoshop thing. You see how it looks very pixelated like that? That's what I want. But when I paste it or stretch it, it goes blur. I don't want that blur. Are you kidding me? Stop kidding me, bro. It's just an option. It's an option that's like somewhere over here. Fixed size, fixed ratio. Free transform. Oh, right here. You select nearest neighbor. It was on bicubic. Got it, guys. Don't worry about it. I told you. Hold up. And then we lock this. You free transform, and then the interpolation. That's the word. It was too big of fancy of a word for me to remember. Interpolation. So we needed the interpolation to be nearest neighbor. At least I think that's what it was, right? Let's find out. Done, done, done. That's it. Yeah, when you do free transform, you select your interpolation to be nearest neighbor instead of bicubic, and then it doesn't blur and make it all gross looking. It just keeps it beautifully pixel arted. Just the way I want it. Okay, and let's place another beautiful, beautiful piece of artwork right here. Let's zoom in again. These are my A-Sprite and GMS2 creations. They are beautiful. Shut up, they're beautiful. Alright, we already free transformed this guy? Oh, I'm setting place. So let's go like this, and then like this. Okay, hold up. Undo all of this. But watch, it's going to be like bleh, bleh, bleh. So undo that, and instead you open it. Instead of placing it, you open it. Then you copy. What? What the heck? Look at this. It won't let me select everything. Transform selection? What?
Time to switch to GIMP.
What is even happening right now? It's so. This is some weird stuff that's never occurred in my life. But all of a sudden, it wants it to be a thing. Why can't I select? It's one layer. Is it like a weird mode? Is it in weird mode? No, RGB color. Control A. Yeah, select everything. Boy, quit playing. Ironic Live, thank you so much. We got a winner here, guys. And over here, we're going to paste this guy, zoom him on in, get a good selection. I said a good selection. Oh my god. Oh, wait. I have, like, maintain aspect ratio, fixed ratio, normal. That's what it was, guys. I had fixed ratio on. I changed my style. I switched up my style. That's all it was. Don't worry about it. I got this. I would reinstall your Photoshop. No, it's just because I'm changing my settings all willy-nilly. I had it fixed style, so it would only get as much Y as there is X, and vice versa. But anyway, I've got this. Let's free transform. We change the interpolation to nearest neighbor, zoom out a bit, fix the aspect ratio, and then stretch him out. And when I select the X, it shouldn't blurry gross it. It should actually just be like good. What do you think, like that? Or should I put him closer to the spike? Like, this is a high-res image, but it's, like, very pixelated, right? I think that's good. And then, on top of this, we're going to need a background and a foreground. So the foreground is going to be like
it's like a medieval torture device.
The background is going to be a solid color. I guess like a black gradient or something. I suppose I should select gradient if I want gradient. And make it like this. Hey, I like that. That's interesting. Okay, and then this foreground will be like some text that's called spike faller. That looks like it's about to get not family friendly. Okay, let's call it spike faller. We gotta reduce this a bit. Let's do 32. No, let's do 64. Spike faller. No, I don't want to rotate it. Come on. Gosh, this selection is so weird. It could be bigger. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's say 84. Let's say 112. There, nope. Let's do 102. It's a little big. Let's say 98. Okay. Now let's bring it down. There we go. I want to center it. And then we're going to do like this, spike faller. And then we're going to do some gross filters on it. And then blend it with some like very generic, easily visible, like easy to tell, like, oh yeah, they just put that in Photoshop and put every filter on it. Go to this. There we go. Spike faller. Size 1. Nope. Size 2. Blend mode. Something different. There we go. I like it. Good stuff. Inner shadow. All of these gross filters, let's put them on. Drop the shadow. Let's give it a glow. More glow. No, less glow. There we go. It looks very Photoshopped. Bend the text on the spikes? Oh gosh. I already drew it though. It's on its own layer though. Wait, hold on. I think I can do that with a... Hold up. I know how to do that. Let's go like this and select... Let's select like where we want to bend it. And then we'll free transform. And then select distort. Oh wait, nope, not that. We'll select perspective. Nope, undo that. We'll select warp. Hold on. Like yes, but let's fix it. Uh-oh. Oh, cancel. Distort, free transform, distort, and then like go like, oh gosh, why isn't it doing it now? Distort. Maybe it wasn't distort. What was it? Warp. Yeah. So let's take this and just raise this up a little bit. Like so. The spike faller. You know, it looks a lot better now. The spike faller. At least pin the text on the sprite. Okay, what about that? Perfection. I love it. Should we do another layer on the background here that's got like some clouds or something? Right, not right there. Clouds should be a little bit higher. Hey, that looks okay. Spike faller. And then maybe... I mean, now I'm questioning, like... I mean, this little line here gives it a sense of, like, it's on the ground, right? Now it feels like these are on the ground. But if I get rid of that line, all of a sudden we're in the sky. So I'm questioning, do we have this black line here, or do we have like some clouds right there? It makes more sense in the game to have it like clouds. Clouds make more sense, yeah. Let's do it like that. Now we've laid the Royal Crown code bait. All we have to do is wait for him to see it. Yep, he's gonna be like, oh, why did you use those filters? Just burn it. Burn it. I love it. It is the greatest it is the greatest image of all time. Alright, let's save it. This is called this is our game, guys. We've made Spike Faller. It's almost done. Spike Faller. We added like 100 features that we totally didn't use, but it was we're just molding this clay until we figure out what we want to make. Even if we have a big ball of clay and we just grab like a little handful of it and be like, boom, that's the thing we made. It was a learning experience the whole way. Spike Faller, and then we're gonna save this as a PNG. Yeah, let's put this on the title screen now. So we'll go to sprites, create a sprite, import the sprite, Photoshop, Spike Faller, OK. Call it S_title screen. And then we will go to our room title. And, wait, what's happening here? Yep, and we'll go to the background layer, and we'll select a title screen. And then we'll have to change. Well, I think we'll have to move our scoreboard so that it's visible. We did put a shadow. Yeah, we need to change text. So let's bring the S to toggle scoreboard down and the enter to start down. Okay. Also, how do I change made in GameMaker Studio to just actually... Oh wait, when I deploy it, it should say spike faller, right? Or wait, nope, I have to manually change that somewhere. I think it's in my project settings. Configurations maybe, options, main. Windows, display name, Spike Faller by Driftwood Gaming. This is version 1. Company, Driftwood Gaming. Product, Spike Faller. Copyright 2019. Copyright 201p. Description of this is, what's the description of our game? This is one game where you don't want to be on point. Somebody said that. Enable Steam. Get out of town. Copy executable to the output folder. Allow full screen switching? Probably not. Interpolate colors between pixels? No. Use synchronization to avoid tearing? Okay. Use window resize, or allow window resize? Okay. Keep aspect ratio. And let's just see what happens now that I change some stuff around when we load our project and play it. Spike Faller by Driftwood Gaming. And we can go like this, boom. And now it like goes into a full screen. And, and it looks better in a full screen. It's still like, a lot of black bars, but ah! Oh, I want to put in speed boost. See, now the spikes are spawning from all the way to the left, all the way to the right, but they're not going off the screen. But the clicky bonus is they're spawning at a margin so that they don't get all the way to the edge. So I think it's almost done. Let's put in a speed boost. It's so good. And bring the text down. So press S to toggle scoreboard. Let's just add 100 pixels to that and add 200 to the press start. Let's go to our draw text. Show scoreboard. Room height by plus 200, and then this one is plus 228. There it is. Press enter to start, S to toggle the scoreboard. We can move the scoreboard down too. Let's put the scoreboard down another 80 pixels, and to the right 40. Down 80 to the right 40. And that's not on this, it's on score. So GUI, that would be this one. We're just going to call it score, because there's only one level. So score, we're going to go down 80. That would be here. and then across 40. Let's test that out. The font could be bigger, but it's fine. Oh wait, F5. Score. Let's bring it back just a hair. Let's bring it back 10 frames. 230. Oh, wait. 230 and 130. I think this is fine where it's at, but let's bring score back another 10. I don't want to get too hung up on it. That's fine. Okay, let's go to our object spawner. We're getting it, guys. We're getting it. This is great. Object spawner. And let's make a new alarm. Let's set a new thing. We're going to call this spawn speed boost. I mean, we designed it. We might as well put it in. It's going to make us move left and right faster. And this will be alarm 2. And we'll say one of these will spawn every 5 seconds. So this 300, actually every 10 seconds. In fact, we'll spawn one at the beginning and then spawn one every 10 seconds. So let's add an alarm 2. Spawn speed boosts. We'll take this whole thing, copy it, put it in here, paste it, change this to the speed boost, and change this timer to 600. But in fact, we'll start we'll start the game by spawning one of each, actually. So we'll say, at the beginning of the game, we'll spawn one of those. We'll spawn one of these. And we'll spawn one of these. So it just speeds it up by a little bit, right? You start the game, there's the first fall will have just a little bit more on it. Hey, Katerina, how you doing? I do remember Friday that falling was becoming a thing. Yeah, like that's going to be the whole game is now taking place on one map. The resolution of the game has changed so that we've zoomed out a little bit. We've added, basically it's not procedural generation, it's just the same map that when you get to the bottom, you go back to the top. When you get one speed boost, they all disappear. So I guess it just like every 10 seconds it's going to give you, put it in another spot. And when the player dies, they come back, I think. They can come back. So they'll spawn, see they spawn around here. And that's Spike Faller. Our score was 75.22. Let's see if we can beat it. We need a higher score. And it'll save your score until you close the application. I suppose what we can do is make it output our score to a text file. So that it'll save our score throughout gameplays. I mean, that would be another technical thing we should learn how to do before I release it. But we'll save that for tomorrow. I'm going to end the live stream. The game is close to completion. I think what I'll do is export this to like a simple text file that could be easily be hacked and just type in 999 but like why would you do that? And yeah, it's getting close, right? I'll think of some other cool stuff that we can include in this type of game. This is about the scope of the game I wanted. I wanted a simple type of platformer thing, but we learned about tile set collisions, and we added a bunch of code for other functions and features, but we took out most of it and decided to do something that was different, right? I didn't want to make a left to right Mario simulator thing. I wanted to make some other type of game. So this just spawns clicky things and spikes, and I put a little particle system in so that when you click them, you get some like visual feedback. I think what we'll do next time, in the next episode, is figure out how to output data as a save file. So we'll learn like save and load, at least for a scoreboard, and we'll also do some sound effects. So we have to make at least one background music. I'm thinking a background music for the title and then a background music for the level. So 2 BGMs. We need to make a bunch of satisfying sound effects. So Audacity and some other program to make some music, some background music. But we're getting close to finishing Spike Faller. It actually is a cohesive idea now. Thank you guys so much for coming to the live stream. If you want to play the last game that I put out, it's called The Legend of Driftwood. I made it with RPG Maker MV over the course of about 3 years, but not like straight working on it. It's available on itch. The link should be in the description below. Come follow us on. Come follow me on itch and keep up with us on Discord. Links in the description below. If you would like to support what I do, I have a Patreon page, patreon.com/driftwoodgaming. Would appreciate all the support there. Yeah, like this video / live stream if you do enjoy it. Subscribe to the channel if you want more game development stuff. And thank you so much for coming to the live stream and all the comments and the interaction. I really appreciate it. I love to see all this and work on something with you guys. As always, if you have any questions, you can message me on Discord. I'm available. And yeah, check out those perks on Patreon. I think I already plugged that. Follow me on Twitter. All this stuff. Guys, I gotta go. Love you very much. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Bye-bye. Thank you so much, Joni Spam, for joining. Varo Claw, later, Ironic Life, Skepsis D, Zaradek. Thank you so much, Ekaterina, Stadnikova, J. Babel. Everybody else who I don't see, Doc Weeze, Ironic Life, I think I've said that already, Cool Sora, Carrid, as always, I appreciate the very, very good help that you give us. Of course, T's Jams.
Yo.
Boro B, thank you for trying to troll me, Aimbot. Try again later. Maybe next time, bro. Or not. Jazz Mink. Thank you so much, Jazz. Hey, Dad. Thank you so much. He's probably already asleep now. Super Boss Jason 1. Thank you for coming to the live stream. Fortnite Mapper. All right, for real. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.